Hey traders, it's John Fortune here with this week's Weekly Forex Forecast for the 1st of July to the 5th of July 2019. As always, we're going to start off by looking at the US dollar index and oil before running through a number of markets, looking at the key levels of support and resistance in the process. And we're also going to be highlighting some of the targets that we're going to be looking for in this coming week and also in the weeks ahead. So let's jump over to the charts and see what the money is this week. As always, starting with the US dollar index. Now, last week we pretty much moved sideways in the dollar index. We are still looking for further declines to the downside in the US dollar index. We are going into next week with a bearish view on the US dollar. So very simply put, if we can get a pullback in the US dollar index, and preferably if we can come back and retest broken support, turning resistance from the past at the 96.61, this is going to be the preferable place next week to start to look for further declines to the downside in the US dollar index. And we're going to be looking down to the next key of support to the downside and target set at the 95.75. And if we can get a breakthrough here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key of support to the downside and target 2 at the 95.16. So the next market we're going to look at is crude oil. Now we start the week retesting a key area of broken resistance from the past, turning support at the 57.68. Going into next week, this is going to now be a great place to start to look for those bullish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bullish formations and patterns in this area, we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and the target set at the 60.65. And if we can get a breakthrough here, we're going to be looking up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and target 2 at the 62.21. So the next market we're going to look at is euro dollar. Now, ever since we were testing down here at the 1.12120, we were looking for this rally into the 1.1389, and we did take out this target last week and we started to correct underneath this target. So very simply put, going into this week, we are still looking for further advances to the upside in euro dollar. If we can get a pullback, and you can see we're very close here already, but if we can get a pullback and a retest of broken resistance, turning support at the 1.1342, this is going to be a great place to start to look for bullish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bullish formations and patterns in this area, we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key of resistance to the upside and the target set at the 1.1447. And if we can get a breakthrough here, we're going to be looking up towards the next key of resistance to the upside and target 2 at the 1.1511. So the next market we're going to look at is pound dollar. Now, pound dollar was another pair last week that didn't really move. We had this dip to the downside, but with that lack of volatility in the dollar index, we didn't really go anywhere in the pound dollar last week. Very simply put, we are looking for further advances to the upside in pound dollar. If we can get a pullback anywhere in this area, and always preferably if we can get a retest of broken resistance from the past, turning support at the 1.2566, this is going to be a great place going into next week to start to look for bullish formations and patterns. And we highlighted in the previous video as well that this would be an area we would start to look for this inverse head and shoulders pattern. If we get this price action next week, we're going to be from this area looking for further advances to the upside in pound dollar. And we're going to be looking up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and the target set at the 1.2865. So the next market we're going to look at is US dollar Japanese yen. Now, last week we highlighted the 108.180 as a potential pullback area in the US dollar yen. You can see we have come very close to this. What would be great going into this week, if we can get another move to the upside and a test of the 108.180, this is going to be a great place going into next week to start to look for bearish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bearish formations and patterns in this area, we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key of support to the downside and the target set at the 106.10. And if we can get a breakthrough here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key of support to the downside and target 2 at the 105.61. So the next market we're going to look at is Aussie dollar. Now, last week we had this reversal to the upside in the Aussie dollar. This, combined with a weaker dollar index and a bearish bias on the dollar index, means that we are looking for further advances to the upside in Aussie dollar. If we can get a pullback, and as always, if we can get a pullback and a retest of broken resistance, turning support at the 0.69250, this is going to be the best place to start to look for those bullish formations and patterns, because it will give us the best risk to reward towards the target. But if we get the right kind of bullish formations and patterns in this market, we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and the target set at the 0.7132. So the next market we're going to look at is New Zealand dollar. Now we start the week above a key area of broken resistance from the past, already turning support once at the 0.6602. If we can get a pullback in the New Zealand dollar, and we would like to see a pullback first as we're coming quite close to the next target to the upside, but if we can get a pullback, as always, if we could get a pullback and a retest of broken resistance, turning support once again at the 0.6602, this would give us the best risk to reward. This would be the best chance to start to look for those bullish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bullish formations and patterns in this market, we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and the target set, the 0.6773. And if we can get a breakthrough here, we're going to be looking up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and target 2 at the 0.6826. So the next market we're going to look at is US dollar franc. Now last week we highlighted the 0.98850 as an area to look for a correction in the US dollar Swiss franc. We did get a bit of a correction, but we're still in this corrective phase after this big sell-off to the downside. We are still looking for further advances to the downside in US dollar Swiss franc. So very simply put, going into next week, if we can get a continued correction, and any continued correction in this area gives us better risk to reward. And if we can get a continued correction, and as always, preferably if we can come back and retest broken support from the past, turning resistance at the 0.9885, this is going to be the best place next week to start to look for those bearish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bearish formations and patterns in this area, we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key area of support to the downside and the target set, the 0.9635. So the next market we're going to look at is US dollar CAD. Now last week we were looking for further declines in the US dollar CAD. We did get those declines. We took out both targets to the downside, and in fact US dollar CAD was a really nice one last week for our members. We discussed this trade in the Monday session. Very simply put, going into this week we are looking for further declines to the downside once again, as we still have that downward pressure on the dollar index. If we can get a pullback, and if we can get a pullback and a retest this week of broken support, turning resistance at the 1.3154, this is going to be another great place to start to look for bearish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bearish formations and patterns in this area, we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key area of support to the downside and the target set at the 1.2979. And last but not least, we have gold. Now last week we were looking for a move to the upside in gold, taking out the 143350. We did get that move, and as you can see, we declined from this target once we traded into it. We had this profit taking coming in. So very simply put, we're going to be looking at further advances to the upside in gold next week. Any pullback in this area we'll be using as a correction to look for bullish formations and patterns. And as always, if we can come back, and preferably if we can correct into the key area of broken resistance, turning support from the past at the 1356.96. This, as always, will give us the best opportunity to start to look for those bullish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bullish formations and patterns in this area, we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and the target set at the 1480.30. So that is it from me for this week, guys. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please let me know by liking, sharing and subscribing. A big thank you to everyone who does that on a regular basis, and a big thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel so far. I want to wish you all a nice weekend, and I want to wish you all a profitable week next week. The only thing left for me to say is take care, and don't forget to trade safely.